Hey, good morning and welcome to SouthPoint. It's so good to see you this morning. Can I tell you, every time that video plays, I really have to fight my natural inclination to kind of bop with it. But bumping the microphone's not always a good idea. As Pastor Tracy said, we're really glad that you're here. And if you're joining us online, thank you. We appreciate that you're doing it. And I want to take just a second to talk about the team from Guatemala before I bring the message I have for you today. So I want to kind of paint a picture for you. We've partnered with the team in Guatemala for years and years. SouthPoint, they come here and they minister to us. We go there, we minister to them. But it is not us going to another country and saying, hey, we're here to save the day. We know what you need. It's actually us going and saying, hey, friends, how can we walk alongside you, do some hard work, take a little bit of the burden off of you for all of the hard work that you're doing regularly. So I wanted to say that, would you please just kind of make a mental note this week, if you would continue to pray for the team in Guatemala that lives there, and they do the work every day, but also pray for our SouthPoint team who's gone to Guatemala to help serve. It would be just the extra bit of it. So I'm Elisa. As Tracy mentioned, I'm part of the team here at SouthPoint Church and so glad to be here. Over the course of the last 3 weeks, today is week number 4, we've had a message series called Prove It. And there's a little 10-year-old kid inside of me that when I first heard the title of the message, Prove It, I thought, make me. And then I remembered, when you challenge God in that way, oftentimes he will make you. But a quick recap of the message series that we've gone over the last 3 weeks. Pastor Kyle kicked it off, and he talked about generosity, how we prove that we are followers of Jesus and that we love him through our generosity. Week number 2, Dr. Kathy Kinzer Downs came and she challenged us about how do we prove, if we say we are followers of Jesus, how do we prove to other people that we see them, we love them, and if they're different from us, how do we enter into those relationships? And then last week, if you saw the message, Dr. Johnny Parker and his wife Leslyn came and challenged and encouraged us to prove that we love our spouses. Now, if you missed any of those messages, please go on our SouthPoint YouTube channel and watch them. They are really, really good. Today, what I want to do is I want to explore a little bit deeper about this particular topic of prove it. First, what does it mean to prove it? So in my day job, I work with lawyers. Specifically, I work with prosecuting attorneys who, during the course of their everyday work, bear the burden of proof in court. And what that means for them is that they have the legal obligation, if you will, to prove assertions that they make in court by demonstrating the factual truth of their case through evidence and argument. So as attorneys, that's what that means. As it relates to our summer message here at SouthPoint Church, and to those of us that say, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, we explore the questions that ask, are we proving to the world and to those around us that we do indeed love Jesus? So how do we do that? Well, hello, it's 2023. If you want to know how to do something, what do? You Google it, right? So I literally got on Google and said, how can I prove that I'm a follower of Jesus? And I got 87,500 answers. Wow is right. There's also an online test. You can take a test on Google to prove if you're a follower of Jesus. Okay, that was fun, but it was silly. It's not actually the point. What does the Bible say when I look for it and ask the question, how do I prove that I love Jesus? And you know what? In the Gospel of John, chapter 14, there is one simple and clear sentence. Thank you, because 87,500 answers just overwhelmed me. In the Bible, which is where we go to. One simple, clear sentence that Jesus said to his followers. If you love me, show it by doing what I've told you. So that's pretty easy, right? I show Jesus that I love him by doing what he's told me. There's another thing in the Bible. I think it's one of the most famous things in the Bible that most of us heard, and that's that Jesus told us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. So there we go. We've got a path, we've got a direction, right? A straightforward way to prove that I'm a follower of Jesus, so I do what he told me to do, which is to love him with all of me, and then to love his people. But here's the thing. I wonder if anybody besides me has been wrestling with feeling burned out. especially over these last few years, right? Just that burnout sensation, not having the energy to prove it. Some days, I have to admit, I have had no strength to love others. And worse than not having the strength to love others, I didn't have a desire to rally myself to change those feelings. And I really do hate admitting that at times I just don't have the energy. Now, truthfully, I want to love people. I really like people. I would not wear sunflower jeans to church if I didn't love people. I love people because I absolutely believe that we are better together. And that means we have to take care of each other every day. But for a hot minute, when I'm being honest and I'm being vulnerable, I haven't always had the energy to dig into that place to work through the time-consuming effort I need to love people, to take that time to build a relationship with people who are different from me. And truthfully, I'm really weary of trying and failing in the relationships with the people who are already close to me. And I wonder if I'm alone, or I wonder if maybe that's us, all of us. So I've had some conversations with myself and with God of late, and I wonder if maybe you've had conversations that were like this. I'm fatigued. I'm exhausted. And I'm worn down because of how long things have been so hard. The uncertainty and confusion of the pandemic incited inside of me kind of a deep and lasting sense of doom. It was a long period, and I just had this sense of doom that pervades a lot of what I do during the day. Marriage is hard, and many days have been a painful exercise that feels like failure. Now, it's mostly hard because of me, because he's wonderful. But marriage can be hard. Daily, my kids face challenges, because they're all adults, that just break my heart to have to watch them go through. The workplace is challenging and stressful. Doesn't matter where you work, doesn't matter what you do, work is just hard. Death. So in the last year, I've lost people who I really love. During the pandemic, we all watched together on television as hundreds of thousands of people died from COVID. And here in St. Mary's County, I actually participated in a news conference announcing the first COVID death that took place here in St. Mary's County. And it's traumatic. It's traumatic to do something that's work-related, talking about someone else dying. Truthfully, I've been drowning in grief for a very prolonged period of time. And oh my word, can we talk about social media? So good, but some days it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. People can be so mean on social media. People. And I'm sure for me and for you, the list of hard things that we could talk about just really continues to go on. So am I alone in these experiences? I think many of us have experienced burnout. Not just tired, not just frustrated, like burnout. Just this past April, a Forbes magazine article said more Americans are experiencing burnout now than at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nearly about 6 out of 10 workers report feeling at least moderate levels of burnout. So agreeing that we're burned out and cranky. Good morning, welcome to SouthPoint on a Sunday. What a cheerful way to start the day, right? If you've had thoughts like these, and if thoughts like these have turned into you like they did inside of me into kind of this inertia where I just couldn't move forward, I couldn't move out of them, I have the best news ever today. We don't have to stay stuck and feeling burned out. None of us do. So at SouthPoint Church, we have a set of values, and 2 of them, the first one is Jesus is a big deal, and the next one is that everyone is loved and welcomed here. So it's particularly from these values that I want to share today what I have discovered recently about burnout and recovery. Because regardless of where each of us are in our faith journey, we have commonalities that are all relatable, right? For instance, life is hard and we want it to be better, right? Life is hard and I really want it to be better. But then we're all asking ourselves the next question, how can it be better? Well, I do want to say today, because I told you the perspective I was going to come from, life can absolutely be better through a relationship with Jesus. This, I have no question. Now, I do want to say this. We all have shared and similar experiences, right? But simultaneously, we're all in different places in our lives and in our faith journeys. I want to acknowledge that. We're all in different places while we're also all very similar. Some of us may be all into this thing about Jesus and to faith. We may be all in. Maybe some of us have questions. Maybe some of us are here because somebody else dragged us here. Humans have a lot of shared experiences, but every person's faith journey is different. So my hope today is that I can share what my relationship with Jesus has done for me, and that it is relatable to you, regardless of where you are, regardless of whether you have faith, you have questions, or you have doubt. But before I do that, I want to tell you a quick story so that you have an idea of how I'm going to share with you what I think is the best news ever. So years ago now, after our youngest daughter, Gracelyn, was born, and we had gone home, and people were coming by to say hello to the new baby and say, hey, how are you? As they do. Our middle daughter, Joy, was 4 years old at the time. And when people would come by the house, she would run up to the front door, fling the door open, grab him by the hand, and say, come see what my mom got. And I know, right? She would bring him to see the new baby, but come see what my mom got. And she'd pull him over to the bassinet to see the baby. I've always thought that was the sweetest and most pure display of love. And I've realized as time has gone on, that's kind of how I express to others and I describe the things that I have experienced that show me that Jesus loves me. Come see what I got. Today's one of those days. I want to share with you and metaphorically take you by the hand, because Pastor Matt said I can't walk down and literally do it, so whatever. I want to metaphorically take you by the hand and say, come see what I got. As I have moved from burnout back to life, because it's something I consider the best thing ever, and I hope it helps if you are in a similar place. So I've been a follower of Jesus for about 50 years. Please don't do the math. So it's really easy for me to grab my Bible and go to it for guidance, for comfort, for encouragement, for answers. And frankly, through this whole message series, Prove It, I've gone to the Bible a lot because in essence, I've been asking God to show me ways where I can find rest and relief within myself for burnout, and how I could have the energy to turn that to love and then share it and prove it to others around me. But I want to encourage you today, as I share with you today, if you are in a place in your life where you have questions about God, or you have doubts about your relationship, and you think that jumping into the Bible feels big, hard, or confusing, please don't disconnect. Please come with me. Follow along, and let me show you what I got. As I share what I got, I'll show you where I got it from in the Bible and what Jesus has done for me. So in the Bible, there's a story about a man who was basically a preacher. He told others about God all day long. That was his mission. That was his life. That was his job. He told people about God. His name was Elijah, and he did many good things for God, and he was very fiery and passionate about doing the things that God told him to do. And then one day, he was burned out. His story is in the Old Testament in the Bible, in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verses 3 through 9. And I want to read these verses, particularly from the Message translation of the Bible, because I love how this version of the Bible expands words to give them this beautiful, colorful, intriguing descriptions of the scriptures. So reading from 1 Kings, when Elijah saw how things were, he ran for dear life to Beersheba, far in the south of Judah. He left his young servant there, and he went on into the desert another day's journey away. He came to a lone broom bush and collapsed in its shade, wanting in the worst way to just be done with all of it, just to die. Enough of this, God. Take my life. I'm ready to join my ancestors. Exhausted, he fell asleep under the bush. Suddenly an angel came, shook him awake, and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and to his surprise, right by his head were a loaf of bread that had been baked on some coals and a jug of water. He ate this meal, and he went back to sleep. The angel of God came again and shook him awake again and said, "Get up and eat some more. You've got a long journey ahead of you." So he got up, he ate, he drank his fill, and he set out. Have you heard that old saying that if you think everyone hates you, you might need a nap? And if you think you hate everyone, you might need a snack? That's Elijah. A long, restful sleep and a good meal did help him get back to his mission, his job, his life, just continue. Notice he didn't get a big vacation. God met him and he just had to continue, right? But that wasn't the only thing that contributed to his recovery from burnout. The first thing that Elijah did was stop his regular routine of doing, to find a place to sit, to stop, to pause, and to ask God for help. Now, the verses go on to tell how Elijah took another nap, he was strengthened by the rest, and then he got up and he continued with his work, which included a long and arduous journey of 40 days. And then, when he reached his destination, he paused again, and in this moment, he was in full relationship with God. This is one of the narratives in the Bible that I love because it reminds me, and I need reminders, that I'm not alone in my weariness. And while I might not fully understand what Elijah's life was like every day, I have no idea what it was like to live in those times. And I certainly have never had an angel deliver my lunch. My husband's close, but still my husband. I've never had an angel deliver my lunch. I absolutely have had times, and I wonder if you have too, where you come home from work, 5 o'clock in the evening, take off your shoes, drop your stuff, climb in bed, and pull the blankets over my head and say, "I'm over it." I can relate to the moment of sheer tiredness that Elijah is referring to, and frustration as well. How about you? We can all relate to being in situations, can't we, where we just want to be done with it, whether we're over this day, this week, or over these last few years. So when we get to a place like this, what do? How do we muscle through? How do we rally ourselves, pick ourselves up to move forward? How do we find the inner resilience to love others in our world, in our communities, and right next to us in our own homes? None of us likely had the option of running to the desert, finding a tree to sit under, or waiting for an angel, right? But what we can take from these verses is that when Elijah interrupted his own day, he was in the middle of the work that God had given him to do. He interrupted it to stop and cry out to God. God heard him. And in his deep love for Elijah, he sent someone to help him. He sent an angel. He sent someone to help him, as well as he provided for Elijah's real needs to feed him and give him rest. And then Elijah was able to continue doing the work that he had been assigned to do. So, what if we did that? What if we shifted the rhythms of our life every day? Not stop everything and move to another country or hide out in the desert, but we just stop the regular rhythms and routines we have and slightly but intentionally interrupt our rhythms that we've established very carefully in our daily lives. What if we did that? To pause and to invite God into that moment. Jesus tells us in Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, that we can find the relief we're longing for, and it's available by pausing and shifting our rhythms. Jesus said, and I love these words, please hear him. Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live lightly and freely. I love Jesus, man. He's the real deal, and he asks the real questions. He knows that burnout is legit. He does. He knows it's real. And he doesn't go into any scriptures and say, pull up your bootstraps, go harder, go longer, do more, perform better. He doesn't say any of those things. He says, walk with me. Learn the unforced rhythms. So a few weeks ago, I came across an Instagram reel about pauses and rhythms in a piece of music. And this thing blew my mind. I probably watched this particular Instagram reel like 50 times, and I saved the link so that I can go back and watch it anytime I need to be reminded to pause and to unclench my heart and my mind in the middle of the day. I'm telling you, I'm going to share the principle of that reel here in just a moment today, because it was so powerful and so simple that when I watched that video, it is no exaggeration to tell you that a light bulb went over my head and my shoulders literally relaxed. So when I was watching this reel on Instagram, I could see a way that I could apply the principles from that 30-second Instagram reel to my everyday life. Because when you're burned out, you just don't need one more thing. You just don't. So what I saw in that Instagram reel was not one more thing. It's how I could take what I was already in the middle of, if that makes sense, but shift my rhythms and pause. And it showed me the simplicity with which I could honestly face my burnout, but gently and directly navigate my journey back to health and wholeness. Impacted me so greatly. So I'm not actually able to show you the reel, but I am going to ask Emma, who's our worship team keys player, to help me share the piece of music, and I'm going to let you hear it for yourself. She's going to share the piece of music today that I saw and heard and what I discovered from that moment. So Emma, first thing, would you please play the C to C scale? Pretty, right? So it's just C to C on a keyboard, okay? Now, Emma, will you play it again, but with a little bit of rhythm that we talked about and with the pauses? So I'm going to have her do it again, and I'm not going to interrupt. We play the scale and then the second one. Y'all, there's two places in my message where I have to pull it together, and that's one of those places, because that is the simplistic beauty of the love of Jesus. So Emma came out and she played the keys, the exact same keys. But by pausing and shifting the rhythm, it's a completely different sound. And just because I know God is who he is, it's no accident that you shift those rhythms and those pauses from an exercise, dong, 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 dong. Sorry, I can't sing. Don't have any tone at all. But you just barely shift that rhythm from an exercise, from a do. You shift that rhythm, and it's no surprise or coincidence that it turns into joy to the world. The Lord has come. I just know that. Deep in my heart. Emma didn't have to learn a new and complex piece of music. She didn't have to go to school. She didn't have to do anything to get a different result. Just pausing and changing the rhythm. Such a simple and profound shift. Just as Jesus said in Matthew 11, "Come to me, get away with me, and you will recover your life. I will show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." These are just simple pauses to consider the unforced rhythms of grace offered through a relationship with Jesus that are taken in the moments of everyday life, bringing relief. So for me, it's been transformational. Absolutely. My days are not less hectic, nor are they less stressful, but my response is different. I'm different, and it's making a huge difference in every area of my life. Now, I do want to be absolutely honest and transparent to tell you that, yes, I do see a counselor on the regular. Absolutely do. And I have a safe and trusted small group of friends who I talk to regularly and meet with to share my struggles with and to get them to pour into me, and we pray together. I've also done a deep dive into a Bible study that's called Resilient. Now, I want to share those pieces of information with you because what I'm encouraging you to do is pause throughout your day and change the rhythms of your day. But there is a great deal of work if you're in a position of burnout because it's so much more than just being tired. So I want to share those pieces of information because returning to health after burnout is a process. There is absolutely no poof, it's fixed. We have to go through the whole process of healing. And I think about how recovering from burnout is a lot like recovering from major surgery, right? So something happens to your body's out of whack. You go see a doctor. The doctor says, we're going to have surgery to repair that. You go to the hospital, you have anesthesia, you have your surgery. You come out of surgery to a recovery room. You leave the recovery room to go back to a regular room. Then you either go to a facility to help you heal or you go home. And then there's this whole long time period that your body is healing from the trauma of the surgery, right? Burnout and recovering from that, it's a lot like that. We have to pause where we are and allow ourselves time to heal. So if I can sum up what I've tried to express today, it is this. Moving from burnout to whole health is a process. Please hear me. Give yourself permission to heal if you are in this place. In small daily ways, pause, take time to reset your heart and mind by focusing on Jesus. We also have to pause in deep ways to allow our hearts and minds to fully recover and to heal. We have to do this incrementally and with endurance for the process. May need to seek out a professional to help us walk through really hard things in our life. May need to get into a small group where we can explore life with people who are in the same place as we are. And by the way, quick side note, if you want to get in a small group, I might know a guy. Please come see me. Small groups, telling you. And certainly healing from burnout means daily doing things differently than we ever have. It is a process. It is not a proof. Proof of our purpose comes through when we love others. I'll say that one more time. Proof of our purpose comes through when we love others. So pausing for prayer in the midst of mayhem propels us where we need to be to that purpose. Now, one of the other things that we often say at SouthPoint is you matter deeply to God. So as I close this morning, I want to pray for all of us using scriptures that one of Jesus' closest followers prayed for his friends at a church he was talking to. As I pray over all of us and ask God to meet each of us wherever we are in our faith journey, and this is from the book of Ephesians, chapter 3, verses 14 through 20. Will you pray with me? My response is to get down on my knees before the Father, this magnificent Father who parcels out all of heaven and earth. I ask him to strengthen us by his Spirit, not a brute strength, but a glorious inner strength, that Christ will live in you as you open the door and invite him in. And I ask him that with both feet planted firmly in love, you'll be able to take in, with all followers of Jesus, the extravagant dimensions of Christ's love. Reach out, experience the breadth, test its length, plumb the depths, rise to the heights, live full lives, full in the fullness of God. God can do anything, you know, far more than you can ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. We love you, God. In your name we pray. Amen. God bless you guys. Have a great Sunday. Thank you.